In the August 10, 2026 edition of Did You Know, I recorded part 1 of my discussion on separating pricing from receiving. In that video, I covered processing vendor price updates and then creating new shelf labels for the items with price changes. The process in that video makes possible what I'm teaching today. In the last video, we left off with what happens when the order arrives from your drug wholesaler now that you're doing automatic price updates and printing shelf labels with the price. So no more stickering items, which by itself saves significant time and money. So the next question becomes, how should I check in my items? I argue that you don't. You simply take the totes to the floor and put your items out. No back scanning. If you're scanning your items, you're doing it to verify the price, which no longer is necessary due to the automated price updates, and/or you're doing it to check in the order to make sure that you weren't shorted. Let me explain why I feel this is a waste of time and money. Simply, the wholesalers make very few picking errors. But you don't have to take my word for it. Just review how many dollars in OTC short claims you filed against the wholesaler over the course of the past year. I'll bet you find very few or none, and if you have filed claims, I'm betting the total dollar amount is very small compared to the amount of labor you've spent checking the items in. So assuming I'm correct, the best practice, just put the totes out and auto-receive the purchase order. Now, if you're keeping your on-hand quantities up to date, I still believe that you can use the same approach, and here are a couple thoughts. Yes, they may short you, resulting in the on-hand quantity being wrong on the item they shorted you on. But as you well know, inventory is never perfect. Even in a perpetual inventory world, it's never perfect because it can't be. People steal, things get broken, things don't get received properly. Whatever it is, there will always be items that are off by a little bit. And that's why you do perpetual inventory in the first place, to catch those items. But again, we've already said that the drug wholesalers don't make a lot of picking errors when it comes to OTCs, so shorts shouldn't cause a significant issue. Of greater concern is the order you send likely won't match the order you receive due to outs and substitutions. This is solved by our vendor EDI program having the ability to process what are called invoice files, which include only what the wholesaler is actually shipping you, including substitutions. When the EDI program processes an invoice file, it updates the purchase order so that it matches what is actually being sent. All three of the major drug wholesalers, Cardinal, Cencora, and McKesson, can provide invoice files for processing as long as you ask for them. For the regional wholesalers, we can't currently process invoice files, but we can process what are referred to as purchase order acknowledgement files, which when processed update the purchase order with what the wholesaler expects to send. Since this is created prior to the order being picked and scanned, if their system isn't aware that an item is out of stock, then it'll still show up on the acknowledgement file. But this doesn't preclude you from doing auto-receiving. It just means that you may have to make a few manual changes during the auto-receiving process. So let me go ahead and go into receiving inventory now, and we'll just show the auto-receiving process. So you go in, choose the purchase order you're wanting to receive. I just have this one purchase order. I'll click OK. Click OK here. And the first question it's going to ask you is if you want to load the purchase order. So I would say yes to this. And when you do that, it's automatically going to set the received quantity to be identical to the ordered quantity. So at this point, if you've processed an invoice file, this means your invoice and what you're receiving are identical, and you simply click Finalize. If you have only been able to process a purchase order acknowledgement, you may want to compare the total on the invoice you've received to the total on this purchase order. You can get to the total on the purchase order by hitting the F11 or F12 to go to the second screen with the red toolbars and click F2 Totals. And you can see now, here's the invoice receiving total, and you can compare that to the invoice you've received. If the totals are significantly different, you may want to compare the invoice to what's on the screen and make changes. If you need to add an item, you can simply scan it or type in the UPC and hit enter, and it'll automatically add one. If you need to edit an item, you can highlight it, hit enter, and then update the quantity. Once you're done, you simply click Finalize, and you can print it and attach it to your invoice. Upon finalization, all of the items in the order will have their on-hand quantities updated. And that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thanks and have a great day.